body, internal, and we know anybody that has any level of nutritional interest, you know you can wash your face with olive oil. You can bathe in olive oil. I'm the olive oil queen. Anybody that really knows me knows I'm olive oil queen. When I was the beauty editor for the magazine 100 years ago, I did a lot of writing on olive oil because olive oil is one of the very few oils, and this has nothing to do with that, but olive oil is one of the very few oils that's what's called a breathable oil. Anybody know what that means? No? Okay. So if I were to take some Vaseline, which is petroleum, or take any other type of oil, let's say a vegetable oil, and rub it on your skin and run it under water, what happens? It's going to bead up, and more so, it's going to fall off. If you take olive oil, some of it will lay on your skin, some of it will bead up. And the reason why that is because the components of olive oil, the structure, the molecular structure of olive oil allows some moisture to penetrate and excavate. So you get an opportunity for some healthy cycling of oil to come in, whereas other oils act as a barrier. What's in stays in, it can't come out, and what's out can't come in. So that's why I tell people all the time, never put Vaseline on your feet because it'll dry your feet out. If you already don't have oily skin, you won't get any moisture from Vaseline because it can't penetrate. Whereas olive oil, it allows stuff that needs to come out, and it allows some of the moisture and the vitamins and the healthy properties that are in the olive oil to actually go into the skin. So it's a breathable oil. It's not a barrier oil. So it's great for your skin if you kind of having some issues as far as eczema or extra dry skin or something like that, and you need something to put on your face to wash your face or use as a moisturizer. Olive oil is excellent because it won't coat the skin. You can actually rinse it off and it'll come off as you're rinsing it off, but leave just a very thin layer of moisture of oil on your skin without making you greasy. It's great for healing properties. You know, when they talk about places in the Bible, they say, oh, he poured in the oil for healing. They're talking about olive oil because it has very good healing properties. So olive oil is an excellent oil to have. So this particular tribe having all this opportunity to not only grow, fertily grow this particular tree that produces olive oil. They could cook with it, they could eat with it, they could bathe with it, they can take care of their skin with it, they can sell it, distribute it throughout the region and the territory, and it was to be purchased by the affluent. So they not only had benefit of it, of use and health and life and prosperity for themselves, but it gave them the opportunity to have an exchange with other people of great wealth. Okay? So them having this particular blessing was a big deal. The receiving of the land came in the final distribution through Joshua. So Asher didn't get his land until the last. He had to wait. And there's something to be said about that because a lot of the other tribes, remember, they opted out. And some of the tribes didn't want to wait. Because remember, Dan was big on that. He wanted what he wanted, when he wanted, how he wanted. He didn't like what he got, so he was going to get his own. And so Asher clearly didn't have that issue. After the battle of Merom, M-E-R-O-M, they received the fifth lot, and that's in Joshua 17, 7, and 11. So other than Dan, Asher was the only other tribe associated with the sea and seafaring. So you have to take that into account too, that they not only had the olives, and the olive trees. If you go to Israel, everywhere you go, along the coast, you'll see olive oil trees everywhere. It is, and they don't look like we think they look. They about as tall as me. So they're not these big old huge trees, but also everywhere you go as far as food is concerned, something that you're going to eat, it's either going to be olive oil in the middle of the table when they give you hummus, and it's the best hummus you'll ever have in your life. In the middle of it, they scoop out and make like a little hole, a little tunnel in the hummus, and they put olive oil in the middle of the hummus. Every meal, you have a side of olives. Olives are extremely plentiful there. And then they have grades of olives and grades of olive oil. They have cooking olive oil, they have anointing olive oil, because it's in vast supply. They have bathing olive oil. I mean, it's It's a lot. And so the other benefit to their lifestyle and their health and vitality was that they were by the sea, so that they could eat fresh seafood. The rest focused on cattle and pasturing animals. The rest of the tribes, their claim to fame, livelihood, and advancement was generally based on cattle and animals. This was one of the few tribes that had to do this. Them and Dan were the only two that had to do with the sea and seafaring. And that's talked about in Judges 5, which we'll end up at in a minute. The Asherites, which is the name of the tribe, they were also known for their wisdom. So from that, I think it needs to be stated how the correlation between joy and wisdom. He was a happy person. He produced happy people, and they were contented. One thing too that I wanted to know, I know I didn't put it in my notes. I don't know why. So I'm going off of that right here. Was where Asher was with the whole thing of Joseph. Isaac is after that. Joseph Spring is after that. So that would be in Genesis 12. I'm sorry, 38 and let's okay. And so let's 37.
It's 37.
We're gonna back up just a smidge. Okay, yep, 37 and 1. And so Jacob lived in the land where his father had stayed, the land of Canaan. This is the account of Jacob. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flocks with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and he brought their father a bad report about them. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of the other sons because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made a richly ornamented robe for him. Okay, let's stop right there. So Joseph did not fare well with his brothers, even before the whole dream thing came, because first and foremost, they knew that he was his father's favorite, as well as Joseph was a tattletale. So he was rotten. You know, you always got the one that, you know, everybody love, and because they know they're greatly loved, they do some stuff. Now, I can't say I was anybody's favorite necessarily, but Yana, you can attest to this. I was a tattletale. A big old for real. I'm telling was my favorite phrase. And so with all of this, the boys, Bilhah's son and Zilpah's son, which would include Asher, they were tending the flocks in the field, as it says in verse 2. And Joseph, while he was tending the flocks with them, they were doing something they had no business doing. They didn't say what it was. And he was like, I'm going to tell Daddy. So he went and told, and of course, he didn't make any friends among his brothers. So saying that, when time came in chapter 36, verse 12, 37, sorry, not 36, 37, where he's sold by his brothers, and he's looking for somebody to stand up. He needs an intercessor to come up and say, don't do that, y'all. It would not be Mr. Happy, Mr. Wisdom, who says it. Instead, it's the food. So, knowing that, as happy and as wise as Mr. Asher was, he was not perfect. Because first of all, he was caught up, he ran his partners in crime, you have to remember, were his brother, Gad, his older brother, because both of them were not only that's his big brother, but they had the same mama. That's his own legitimate, his older legitimate brother. And as well as you have to remember where their tribal allotments ended up being. So in the beginning of life,
They right by each other.
right, in the beginning of life, he was with his brother Gad. And Gad wasn't a bad guy, as we remember. He wasn't bad at all. But he was he was a fighter. He was assertive and aggressive and all of that. And so legend has it, this is not biblical, this is Jewish legend, has it that Asher actually fell out with the rest of the brothers for a period of time because he was the one that went and told the rest of the brothers about Reuben sleeping with Bilhah, the concubine. And they said, "You a lie. He ain't doing that. Stop lying." And so they got mad at Asher because Asher wouldn't say he was lying. And so Asher kind of kept his distance from him. And then when it came out, when the father named him and said, "Yeah, you slept with my wife. I know what you did." Then the brothers restored and repented, and then he was the favorite among the brothers after Joseph. That's Jewish legend. Who knows if that's true? However, when it's all said and done, we can kind of get some ideas about his personality and the people that he produced, because he seemed to, for the most part, be above board. For the most part. There was, however, some aspects of his personality that were a little aloof. And we find that in Judges 6. We're not going to turn there just yet. We'll go there in just a second. I want to get the rest of these facts out. He had 5 sons and 1 daughter, Sarah, S-E-R-A-H. She's one of 3 women mentioned in Genesis 46, which is a big deal because remember, women were property, not people. So anytime you see a woman mentioned by her name, that's a big deal. In the first census that was given in Numbers 1 and 40, it was 41,500 Asherites. In the second census, it increased by almost 12,000 men, which is remarkable to grow in the wilderness, because after that, remember that second census, they were in the wilderness. So a lot of the other tribes did not have such great success and wealth and growth and all of that kind of stuff. Because remember, the more children you had, that was a good thing, because you were able not only to defend the land, but you were also the more children you had, the more wealth you could have, because you had more people working with you to grow your family. As other tribes decreased, they were the second largest growing tribe, which is spoken of in Nehemiah 8-10. In Moses' blessing, he compared them to iron and bronze. Iron is equivalent to strength, and bronze is equivalent to wealth. And again, we talked about that with their olive oil industry. So along with Dan, and Naphtali, they were the rear guards. Remember, we went through that, what a rear guard was. Anybody remember what's a rear guard?
They came in at the end.
Uh-huh.
And if there was an ambush, they would be able to protect.
From the back, correct. So they had to be strong, they had to be really tough, they had to be fearless fighters, because they needed to be able to not only take up the back and protect people from the back, but they also had to be very discerning of what was going on in their surroundings, because sometimes you don't get attacked from the front, you get attacked from the back. And how does that compete with us, about being a rear guard? What's the scripture that talks about a rear guard?
The God is our rear guard.
Our rear guard and our reward. What is the reward? Continual reward. So he is our protection from the rear. So we don't have to worry about being ambushed from behind. And we don't have to worry about where our reward and our plenty and our supplies, because he is our continual supply. He's our rear guard and our reward. Okay. Asher didn't show up in Judges battle according to Deborah's song. So now let's turn to Judges 4. Judges 4.
Five 17.
Yep. And it says Gilead stayed beyond the Jordan, and Dan, why did he linger by the ships? Asher remained at the coast and stayed in its coves. So again, while all this stuff is going on, because I think we did go over chapter 4 rather. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Barak and all of that stuff. And he was from what tribe? What was from Barak? Where was Barak from?
Dan?
He was from the tribe. He was from the tribe of Naphtali. Nobody good. So, but the issue here, he basically dropped the ball, and he was saying in this instance, in this battle that was in chapter 4, that he was aloof and separate from the other tribes. Now, why might he have been hands off, standoffish, and aloof from the other tribes? Brainstorm. We talked about it a few minutes ago.
They was native on as well.
No, because remember what they had? They had
That brother thing wouldn't carry that far down the road.
really?
It would.
You don't think so?
I guess people cold grudges, so yeah. Yeah, and I have seen grudges transfer to kids. The kids ain't got nothing to do with it, but I don't like you because my
It's the
mom
culture.
like it.
It's the culture. When you're raised in a culture that we don't do this, we don't like that. We don't, you kind of. It's the same thing like there's that old story that they tell all the time about you cut the butt off the ham.
Oh,
It's the same thing. You do what you kind of trained into it until you say, what am I doing this for? Until somebody stands and becomes the person who stops it, or at least asks some questions about why we're doing this. You just keep doing what you know to do. And so I'm contending that that's the reason why they were aloof and not willing to necessarily. They never said we're not going to fight with our nation and with our brothers and with our people, but they didn't seem to be looking for no work.
The first ones to say, yeah,
Right. Their thing was, we'll deal with people, we'll trade, we'll make money, we want to be happy and carefree, and if we gotta fight, we'll fight because we know how, because we're part of the rear guard, but don't call my name and I ain't coming. They didn't have that, where some of the other tribes that were talked about in this regard, they like, oh, my brother fighting, I'm coming to the table. Whereas actually that was one of their flaws. They were aloof and they had no problems being separate. Then in Judges 6 and 7, it talks about Gideon and Asher. When Asher and the Asherites, they answered the call to fight. This was good. This is at the actual lesson. So we passed the point of checking off highlights and points. This is the actual lesson. So somebody read Judges 6, read the whole chapter. Okay. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and for 7 years he gave them into the hands of the Midianites. Because the power of Midian was so oppressive, the Israelites prepared shelters for themselves in mountain clefts, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern people invaded their country. That's low down and dirty. They camped on the land and ruined the crops all the way to Gaza and did not spare a living thing for Israel, neither sheep, nor cattle, nor donkey. They came up with their livestock and their tents like swarms of locusts. It was impossible to count the men in their camel. They invaded the land to ravage it. Midian so impoverished the Israelites that they cried out to the Lord for help, which was what the Lord wanted. Anyway, he like, oh, okay, y'all gonna do you? Do you? Let me know how this works. Okay. Then when the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian, he sent them a prophet who said, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I snatched you from the power of Egypt and the hand of all your oppressors. I drove them before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites in whose land you live. But you have not listened to me. The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Orpha that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. But sir, Gideon replied, if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our fathers told us about when they said, did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and has put us in the hand of Midian. The Lord turned to him and said, go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you? But Lord, Gideon asked, how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family. Don't you love it? Don't you love it? The Lord answered, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites together. Gideon replied, if now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that it is really you talking to me. Please do not go away until I come back and bring my offering and set it before you. And the Lord said, I will wait until you return. Gideon went in, prepared a young goat, and from an ephah of flour he made bread without yeast, putting the meat in a basket and its broth in a pot. He brought them out and offered them to him under the oak. The angel of God said to him, take the meat and the unleavened bread, place them on this rock, and pour out the broth. And Gideon did so. With the tip of the staff that was in his hand, the angel of the Lord touched the meat and the unleavened bread. Fire flared from the rock, consuming the meat and the bread, and the angel of the Lord disappeared. First of all, I'd have been gone right back there. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he exclaimed, sovereign Lord, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face. He a little late on the draw. But the Lord said to him, peace, do not be afraid. You are not going to die. So Gideon put an altar to the Lord there and called it, the Lord is peace. This is the day it stands in Orpah, the Abiezrites. That same night, the Lord said to him, take the second bull from your father's herd, the one 7 years old, tear down your father's altar to Baal, and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Then build a proper kind of altar to the Lord your God on top of this height. Using the wood of the Asherah pole that you cut down, offer the second bull as a burnt offering. So Gideon took 10 of his servants. It's like 1,000 sermons in this text right here. I just want y'all to know. So Gideon took the 10 of his servants and did as the Lord told him. But because he was afraid of his family and the men of the town, he did at night rather than at daytime. In the morning, when the men of the town got up, there was Baal's altar demolished with the Asherah pole beside it cut down and the second bull sacrificed on a newly built altar. They asked each other, who did this? When they carefully investigated, they were told, Gideon, son of Joash, did it. The men of the town demanded of Joash, bring out your son, he must die because he has broken down Baal's altar and cut down Asherah poles inside it. But Joash replied to the hostile crowd around him, let's pause. Let's talk about the fact that they done built all this stuff on the Lord's ground. And they mad because somebody went and did what the Lord said and built the right altar. Let's start with that. Okay. Are you trying to save him? Whoever fights for him shall be put to death by morning. If Baal really is a god, he can defend himself when someone breaks down his altar. So that day they called Gideon Jerubbaal, saying, let Baal contend with him, because he broke down Baal's altar. Now all the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern people joined forces and crossed over the Jordan and camped in the valley of Jezreel. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, summoned the Abiezrites to follow him. He sent messengers throughout Manasseh, calling them to arms, and also into Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, so that they too went up to meet him. So they answered the call. That's important. Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand as you have promised, look, I will place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece and all the ground is dry, then I'll know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you said. First of all, you're still alive, dude. You need how many reassurances of what God has told you? You still alive. But we are like that. He tell us to do something. He provided. We like, make this light blink on 3 times. Verse 38. And that is what happened. Gideon rose early on the next day, and he squeezed the fleece and wrung out the dew, a bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to God, don't be angry with me. Let me just have one more request. Allow me one more test with this fleece. This time, make the fleece dry and the ground covered with dew. That night, God did so. Only the fleece was dry and all the ground was covered with dew. Chapter 7. Early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all his men camped by the spring of Harod. Now he got a group of men following, because remember they answered the call. Why they didn't answer the call? They waiting to know where they're going to go. He asking for tricks with God. The Lord said to Gideon, you have too many men for me to deliver Midian into their hands. Highlight that.
You have too many.
Press pause. Before you read any further, why do you think God would say that?
Because God wants the glory out of us. They didn't think they had too many, but God wanted
They think they had enough. Okay, and so, okay, he says, and again, the Lord said to Gideon, you have too many men for me to deliver Midian into your hands, in order that Israel may not boast against me, that her own strength has saved her. Announce now to the people, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead. So 22,000 men left, while 10,000 men remained. That's how many folk among them were scared. You don't want no scared folk fighting this shit. That's something we got to pay attention to. Who around me that I'm calling support, that I'm believing, that's believing God with me, that's standing with me, that's scared? I might need to say, if you scared, beat it. I see you when I get back. Okay. Announce now to the people of verse 4. But the Lord said to Gideon, there are still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will sift them for you there. That's the operative word. We need some sifting in our lives. If I say, this one shall go with you, he shall go. But if I say, this one shall not go with you, he shall not go. So Gideon took the men down to the water. There the Lord told him, separate those who lack water with their tongues like a dog from those who kneel down to drink. Only God, because nobody else would have thought of that. 300 men lapped with their hands to their mouths. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the other men go, each to his own place. So Gideon sent the rest of the Israelites to their tents, but kept the 300 who took the provisions and the trumpets of others. Now the camp of Midian lay below him in the valley. During the night, the Lord said to Gideon, get up, go down against the camp, because I am going down to give it into your hands. If you're afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Korah and listen to what they are saying. Afterwards, you will be encouraged to attack the camp. If you're scared, you better have some people in your camp who can talk to you right. If you have moments when the Lord say, okay, get up and pursue, and you looking like, I don't think I can do this no more. That's why you need to purge your midst, because you need to be going to some people in your midst that's going to be like, no, that's not what the Lord said. We believe the report of the Lord. You don't need nobody around you who like, child, I don't think we can do this. It's 300 of us. It's like 3 million of them. We can't go up and down like that, because we need to go back with the rest of them. Shoot, they asked us enough to go home. We need to ask us enough to go home. You don't need none of that in your camp. So he told them, this is the person that you go to be encouraged. If you need to be stirred up and stimulated to continue to do what we're doing here, that's who you go to. Who in your midst do you have that you can do that? That can do that for you? Who you got?
You.
You so silly. Who you got?
On a personal or spiritual?
Both.
My sister.
Okay, you got somebody there. Who you got?
What's the question?
I need you to be listening.
I was listening, but
You was thinking about that fight you gonna have with Ned on the corner after this. So.
I heard you say.
Who you got? Who you got in the fight that can encourage you when you get scared and want to turn back?
Annette?
Okay, you got somebody. Who you got?
I got somebody else to think about it.
That's a problem.
It's been different people for different things.
Who you got? The Lord didn't say you got different people in the camp for different things. He said go to Portland. Who you got?
I was like, yeah, I don't know. Fraser.
Then you got somebody.
Yeah. Okay.
Who you got, Marlon?
Chris.
Who you got?
God.
Who you got on earth? We all got God.
That's what I said, spiritual.
We all got God. God didn't say come to me when you need encouragement. He said go to Portland.
I got no feeling. My family at home.
As long as you got somebody. And listen, verse 11. And listen to what they are saying. Afterwards, you will be encouraged to attack the camp. So he and Korah sent his servant and went down to the outpost of the camp. The Midianites, the Amalekites, and all the other eastern people had settled in the valley, thick as locusts, and camels could no more be counted than the sand on the seashore. Gideon arrived just as a man was telling a friend his dream. I had a dream, he was saying. A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midian camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed. Bread. Verse 14. His friend responded, this can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite. What was last week? Somebody talking about you? Oh, you heard about me. God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hands. They're already reporting the victory.
Yeah, they done lost.
Verse 15.
They did not to hope, but they did that with Joshua
And Caleb.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Same grasshoppers now, but go ahead.
This is a loaf of bread, though. His friend, 15. Then Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation. He worshiped God. He returned to the camp of Israel and called out, get up! The Lord has given the Midianite camp into our hand. Divided the 300 men into companies, he placed trumpets and empty jars into the hands of all of them with torches inside. This is the part I love. Watch me, he told them. Follow my lead. Wait a minute. Watch me. Follow my lead. So the thing that God has told you to advance against, whatever this promise is, whatever this battle that you're engaged in, and the people that you have that are at stake, I should say, that are with you, fighting with you, you need to be taking the lead. After you got your encouragement, after you got your marching orders, okay, the Lord said, okay, I know you need a little help. So you go and you get built up over here, you get your encouragement. Before, as you coming upon them, you getting the dream told to you and the victory announced over you. Now you can go. Now it's time for you to be an example and take the lead. Because when it's all said and done, God put you at the front of this fight for a purpose. You can't be standing among the people like, what we gonna do? We ready to go? I'm going with y'all. Who gonna do the count on 3? You do the count on 3. You gotta take the front. You gotta take the lead. And the lead that you take is in faith. And your faith should be exemplified in what you say and what you do. So if what you're saying and what you're doing is not in leadership and excellence in your leadership, then you got a whole other problem because you don't even believe what you're saying.
It reminds me of when the Israelites left Egypt, and I know this is just in the movie, but this is what I see. When Joshua, the Israelites were leaving Egypt, and they were
I've never seen it.
leading out.
I've never seen it.
Okay. Well, the scene was Joshua told Moses to go stand at the highest point at the.
Oh, that's when they
When
were
they
crossing
were-
the Red Sea.
When they, in the Ten Commandments, when they were leading them out of Egypt, but Joshua told Moses to go stand on this hill so the people could see him and be encouraged. when they were leaving Egypt. That's just what came to
People are the
mind.
point of contact.
Yeah.
If they take their lead, the people that are dependent upon you, that are around you, they're taking their lead from you. And if you looking scared, they like, I don't think this. What is we gonna do?
That's just what the vision came in my head.
So verse 17, watch me, he told them. Follow my lead. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly as I do. When I and all who are with me blow our trumpets, then from all around the camp blow yours and shout for the Lord and for Gideon. Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, just after they had changed the guard. They blew their trumpets and broke the jars that were in their hands. The three companies blew their trumpets and smashed the jars. Grasping the torches in their left hands and holding in their rights the trumpets they were to blow, they shouted, a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. While each man held his position around the camp, all the Midianites ran, crying out as they fled. When the 300 trumpets sounded, the Lord caused the men throughout the camp to turn on each other with their swords. The army fled to Beth Shittah towards Zerah, as far as the border of Abel Meholah near Tabitha. Israelites from Naphtali, Asher, and all Manasseh were called out, and they pursued the Midianites. Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim, saying, come down against the Midianites and seize the waters of the Jordan ahead of them as far as Beth-barah. So all of the men of Ephraim were called out, and they took the waters of Jordan as far as Beth-barah. They also captured two of the Midianite leaders, Oreb and Zeb. They killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb and Zeb at the winepress of Zeb. They pursued the Midianites and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon, who was by the Jordan. So the lesson, don't despise the small. God has victories come forth often through what man despises. Our little stuff we feel like we got, this ain't enough. This ain't enough. How I'm going to be doing all that the Lord said? We get these great prophecies that we look at, and sometimes we don't believe because we like, this is too big. This is too much for little old me. I don't have enough to take a one-person business and make it a multi-million-dollar business. I don't have enough to have whatever the God said I could have. I don't have enough money to start X, Y, and Z. I don't have enough education. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough people backing me. But God said he would use the foolish things to confound the wise. And when we have the people who have much and who had much, he said, get rid of that chance much. Because I want to get the glory. So we're actually in pretty good positions. Because what we have enough to God for God to get the glory from. So stop, take your pen and piece of paper out. Write down every promise that comes to mind that God has made you that you really don't believe that he could do. And be honest, because we say we believe some stuff and we really don't believe it because we can't see it. The big promises that it's just like, I don't know, you gonna do this. I believe you can. I don't know how you gonna do that. Write down the things that you feel like keep you from being able to possess God's promise. Areas where you feel small, weak, or lacking in. So remember, after whittling down the army into 300 men in 3 different companies out of his obedience, that God began to then give him ingenious strategy, completely ingenious strategy. And so there are some things built up in our lives that we have a lot of, that God wants to whittle down. So this is your homework. You got to ask the Lord, what is built up or building up in my life and in my heart that you want to whittle down, that he wants to whittle down. So after he releases that answer to you in your time of study, you ask the Lord, after you obey, after you ask him to whittle it down for you. I'm going to show you how to do that. Ask him to release ingenious strategy for the release of miracles. Because that was a miracle. So the highlights to point, lead from the front, trust God, do what he says do, the way he says do it, trust God, trust God, trust God. Last of the homework is, what is the lesson to be learned from Asher and King Hezekiah? Okay. What's the lesson to be learned from Asher and King Hezekiah? You're going to come with the lesson. You don't have to go through all the background and all that stuff. You're going to have to go through that to get to the lesson. But come with the lesson. One lesson that you learned from Asher and King Hezekiah. And then next
Separately or together?
it's the same. It's the one account. Okay. Who's the 9th son?
His son, somebody.
Issachar. Who's the first son?
Reuben.
Second?
Simon.
Simeon.
Simeon.
Third,
Levi.
4, Judah.
Judah.
5th,
Dan.
Naphtali.
6th,
Dan.
7th,
Gad.
8th. Good job. 9th is Naphtali. So Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah. 5 always get y'all.
Mm-hmm.
5th son,
Dan. Naphtali. Dan. Gad. No, I don't know.
go do it again.
Reuben. Simeon. Levi. Judah. Naphtali.
5 always get y'all. Who's the 5th son?
Naphtali.
Who's the 5th son? Why are you looking confused?
Blank.
It ain't me.
No, he's 6.
Dan.
Who's the 5th son? Dan.
It is Dan.
Mm-hmm. Then it's Naphtali,
That's right.
Gad,
Asher.
Asher,
Issachar.
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 Why do you do that when we say the right answer? You look at us like.
Because I want you to be sure. I want you to be sure.
Like, well, maybe somebody else.
I want you to be sure. Should nobody be able to talk you out?
We should say it with authority.
You
as
should be able to
opposed
know what you know.
Like we
I'm
kind of,
sitting here looking at this paper
like we
like.
kind of guessing.
Can't nobody talk you out of what you know.
I don't know.
Can't nobody talk you out of what you know. Y'all get the first.